Start recording. All right, so it's 7 o'clock. We're at the Milwaukee Makerspace. Like I said, it's one of those rare occasions where I know what we're going to make in far enough advance that I can actually make the thing versus like 15 minutes before class. So, we're going to be making this contraption here, which I've passed around. It is a spring loaded or spring dampening coffee holder for a bicycle. Because sometimes I ride my bike to the makerspace in the morning on Sundays, Saturdays, and I want to have my coffee with me on my bike. So we need one of these. Exactly. Why would you want to? It's got a number of joints in it, and at the end of this exercise, I'll show you a little stretch goal if you want to spend your own time doing something crazy. But we'll get to that when we get there. And in the meantime, I'm going to start a new design here. And let's go ahead and start by adding some parameters. So there are, this is a good, in my mind, a good use of parameters are in areas that you're going to want to change. Like, for example, the size of your coffee cup. I don't know how big your coffee cup is. Some people, get the 32 ounce. Again, I support your choices. So let's go ahead and create a new user parameter here. That user parameter button to create it is this little plus button here. And in case you missed where I clicked to add and change the user parameters, it's in the modify menu. And then you scroll down to parameters here.
Are we working in freedom units today?
We are working in freedom units today. Although all my hardware is metric. So kind of both. All right, we're going to make a new user parameter here. This user parameter, we're going to call this our cup size. At least that's what I'm going to call it. It's the user parameter I'm using to specify the size of the item that we want to carry on our bicycle. The diameter. Yeah.
We need to be able to see the vente for sure.
Right. All right, and I believe this was 3 1/4 inches. I believe that's how big it was. Again, this is another reason to have a parameter because it's easily changeable later, so no worries. The other thing that I want to specify is my hole spacing on my bike because it may be different than your bike. So my bike has like a couple of little mounting holes for mounting the water bottle holder on. And just when I said we were using freedom units in this class, my bike mount happens to be exactly 69 millimeters apart. So, oh, it doesn't like that number. Oh, it does. It won't let me use a number as a name. This is my hole spacing. And we have a nice round 69 millimeters of spacing there. All right, and I'm going to say okay. And then I'm going to say okay one more time because we are done setting our user parameters. So I can click the Oakley Dokley button. And now we can actually start making our sketch. So I'm going to draw this whole thing. I'm going to come and drag this. It does not like those user parameters? Space.
Sorry,
Do not have spaces in the user parameter.
I apologize. I had my crap.
Don't worry about it. I did it all the time in the welding area, and then I had to go back and clean up later.
You gotta watch out. People have their crab open in the makerspace a lot. Yeah, it's a problem. It's a big problem here. Mm-hmm. All right, so I'm gonna imagine drawing this whole thing on one sketch from the side. Why? Because I watched a bunch of YouTube videos over the last couple weeks about like people doing advanced stuff in Fusion, and a lot of people like to make tons of sketches. Like it's their preference to have as many sketches for an object as possible, and I think that's weird. Maybe you can, if you have anecdotal evidence, we could talk after class, but I kind of prefer to have as few sketches as possible. So,
3D sketches are awesome.
oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna have some. We're gonna disagree. I'm gonna agree to disagree. Um, all right, so we're gonna make this all in one sketch, so we can imagine just kind of cutting this thing right in half, and that's the sketch we're gonna make here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by creating a sketch, and I'm going to create that sketch on the right plane. So I'm going to spin around my navigation cube up in that top right hand corner up there until I can see that right side. And then I'm going to click on that plane to specify that plane there. It doesn't really matter a whole lot which plane you choose, but it can make navigation a little bit easier using that navigation cube there. So I'm going to start by creating a 3-point rectangle. And this 3-point rectangle I'm going to use because the first thing that we're going to create is kind of this base piece right here. And this piece on my bike is at an angle. This might be another good use of a user parameter, but we can add that later if we want to. I'm going to place the first part of my 3-point rectangle at my origin there. And then we're going to go up at an angle at a distance that is our whole spacing plus, so I'm going to hit the plus button, and I'm going to add a whole inch. I actually added, did I add more than an inch? We're going to add 1.5 inches, just to be on the safe side. All right, cool. And now I can, you can see I've got that number typed in, but I can still kind of specify an angle here. If I hit the tab key, I wish it would let me jump to that angle measurement, but it does not let me choose that angle measurement now. So I'm just going to kind of pick an arbitrary angle, something like that, just by clicking and placing that point. And now I can specify the thickness here I want, which is 1/4 of an inch. Now I can click and place that measurement. And now that we've got that angle in there, now that we've got that rectangle placed, now we can add our angle to it. So I can add, I believe I can add an angle. Let's go ahead and let me work ahead a little bit here. Oh no, hold on. All right. So I lied. I need a little reference line. So first, before I can add a dimension, I'll need to go ahead and create a small line. And the small line just needs to go from our origin straight out. I'm going to make it go out an inch. It doesn't really need, it could be 10 inches. It could be 2 inches. We just need a reference line here that is straight horizontal. I'm going to change that to be a construction line, a dashed line. This is just kind of for my own sanity. When I see a construction line in my drawing, I know that the only reason that it's there is to reference something else. So it's just kind of a good shorthand for that. Now that that line is there, now we can add a sketch dimension between that reference line that we just made and one of the angles of our rectangle. And I can place that measurement. 90 degrees would be straight up and down, so this is going to be 80. And my post is about a 10-degree angle, so about a 10-degree angle there. Actually, it might be closer to 15, but cool. We'll take a little pause and see how you got your
Is the construction part
say create, and then sketch dimension, and then you'll pick the line that we just made. There we go. And then secondarily, you'll pick one of the angles. There you go. And now you can move your mouse somewhere in between there. There you go. Then you can click and place that measurement. You'll have to click and place it first, and then you can type it wherever you want that angle to be. Cool. Yeah, I made it an inch long. The only reason I gave a dimension to that line is because I have this personal goal of having fully constrained sketches. So I want to see this little lock button over here on all my sketches. I want all my lines to be black. Just personal life goals.
One of the
Where's the construction line make it dashed in the menu of the line?
It is actually, so you can hit the X key on your keyboard, but in the sketch palette, there's line type options here, and there's two different line type options. There's a construction line, and then there's a center line. And if you have a line highlighted, like if I have this line highlighted.
You get the angle.
And then to add our angle, once we've got our line there, here I'm going to delete it, and then mess that angle up. So if we click on create, and then come down to sketch dimension, and then the two lines that we want to set as our objects are that construction line that we made, and then any one of our two long lines that make up our rectangle. So I'll click on one, and then I'll click on the other one, and now I've got this measurement that I can click and place.
That's super useful.
And once I place that measurement, now I can add in whatever measurement we want that to be. You want to change the thing?
well to make it.
Oh yeah, you're good. Yeah. Yeah, you're all. You're good. Cool. Cool. Cool, cool. All right, so now let's add one more little bit to this sketch here. So at the top of our rectangle here, we're going to have another 3-point rectangle. So I'm going to click on the create menu here. I'm going to come down to rectangle, and then I'm going to choose 3-point rectangle. I'm going to click and I'm going to place this just arbitrarily for now on that line. And then I'm going to come down 1.5 inches. So I'll come down 1.5 inches. I'll click and I'll place that kind of 1.5 inch measurement there. And then we're going to come out 1/2 inch. So it's 1/2 inch by 1.5 inches long. And I can click enter and place all those measurements. And I'm just going to take a minute to clean up some of these measurements so they're a little bit easier to read for future me, because sometimes future me thinks that past me was an idiot, and I'm trying to prevent that. Now, we were kind of talking before class started about not knowing measurements and not wanting to put measurements in that you don't know. This is one of these cases here. So I don't actually know what this measurement is going to want to be. But it's going to want to be some measurement. It's going to be a measurement. We just don't know what that measurement is. And the reason is because I really want my joints here to fall in between where my nut is. And I don't know where my nut is because I haven't drawn my little bolt thing right there, right? So I'm gonna put in a measurement for now, and then we're gonna need to change it later, which is fine. This is what parametric design is all about. So I'm gonna choose that sketch dimension option again, the same way we added this angle measurement. I'm gonna use that sketch dimension option to define a distance between these 2 points here. And for now, I'm just going to set that at, I don't know, 3/8. Probably close-ish. The reason we want to make sure we have a measurement in there that is easy for us to change later, as opposed to not having a measurement and then coming back and adding one, is if we come back and add one, we're going to draw stuff on this space, and when you are messing in the future in front of unconstrained sketches, there's no predicting how those unconstrained sketches are going to move when you go back on the other side of them and then come back to the other side of them. When you're moving through time past unconstrained sketches, weird things can happen. So fully constrained sketches make me happy. All right. And then I'm just going to say finish sketch here. I suppose we could have kept going. I'm going to name this sketch. This sketch is going to be our profile.
Somehow it thought that I wanted the top box on the left to be the I forgot the name of it.
Good, we're good, good. Yeah.
But it gets switched around, and it thought I wanted this to be like that, and that to be like that.
So you're good. We're in the same space. It's just you've got dashed lines there instead of solid lines. So if you spin down your little arrow and then you right click on your sketch and say edit sketch, you can click on the lines there that are part of your, and then hit the X key. And then hit the X key, and that'll turn it into a solid line again. So you want to do that to all three of those lines. So you'll turn back into solid lines. Yeah, there you go. And now you're good. Now you're all set. So then you can say finish sketch. And let's go and extrude a couple of things from our sketch here. So I'm going to click on the create menu and find my extrude tool. And I'm going to extrude out this long bar. I'm going to extrude out this long bar just to one side. Yeah, just to one side. And I'm just going to go 1/2 of an inch. That's 1/2 inch, right? Or is that 3/4? I should have brought a measuring device in here. That's probably 1/2 inch, right? Should have really committed these measurements to memory. Oh, this is not inches. 18 centimeters? 18 millimeters? Oh, that is. Or just a measuring tape would be awesome. Thank you. We're going to go 1/2 inch for now. And I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to extrude out again. So, except this time, I'm going to extrude. So I'm going to grab, oh, thanks. Oh, it's 3/4. All right, so I'm going to edit that sketch, and I'm going to go with 0.75. 3/4 of an inch. And I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to extrude out again, except this time I'm just going to extrude that top little angle there. And that top little angle is going to be 1/4 of an inch. I do want to do this as a join, so I'm joining these two things together. And then I'm going to say OK. All right, so that's kind of where we're at with our base little figure here. Let's go ahead and add our mounting holes to that. I mentioned like before we were going to do this in one sketch, and that is almost true. The only sketch that is separate from that sketch that would, there's a couple actually. We're mounting the spring there. So I lied to you. I lied right to your faces. Sorry, I apologize. So we have little funny looking shapes. Funny looking shape, funny looking shape, funny looking shape. There we go. Yeah, it's just that last little bit you got to extrude there.
I don't know, just being slow today.
No worries, no worries.
What was the length on that one?
1/4 of an inch. Exactly 1/4 of the king's toe, or whatever that measurement is based on. All right, so now let's go ahead and place our mounting holes on our front here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Create. I'm going to choose Create Sketch. And as the face, I'm going to create that sketch on. I'm going to choose kind of the front of my bike mount. That front angled line bit there. Now, this is one of those occasions where there's two ways to do it. There's two ways to do everything, I suppose. There's probably a million ways to do everything. We want to end up with 5mm circles. Again, when we're drawing in freedom units, we're stuck with metric hardware because that's what my bike is made with, metric hardware. So we want we're going to have some 5mm holes. They're located right in the middle of this thing here. But we don't really have the middle right now, so I guess the way I'm going to choose to do this is I'm going to draw a center line. Now I guess we could do this with constraints later, or add dimensions to things later. But I kind of like having this center line in here. I guess this is kind of doing it with constraints. So this center line, because we've got a midpoint constraint popping up here and here, it's kind of nice because that midpoint will be at the midpoint no matter how wide we make this. So if we go into the past and we say, oh, actually this needs to be a full inch instead of 3/4, or it needs to be real skinny, it needs to be 1/2 of an inch instead of 3/4, that center line will still remain true in the center of our object. So I do like this method of doing things after all. I'm going to change it to a construction line just by clicking on it and hit the X key. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a pair of circles. So I'm going to draw a circle down here that's 5mm. And I'm going to draw another circle up here that again is 5mm. Nice 5mm circles. Now we made sure to specify, create a parameter for the distance between those things, because that is a specific distance. If we don't have that distance right, it won't fit on our bicycle. And I'm going to add that dimension now. So Just like we added dimensions when we were making the angled line, when we made the angle of this piece, we added dimensions. What else did we add a dimension for? I forget, but here we'll choose the sketch dimension option again. And I can specify as the objects, two objects to set a distance between. So I picked the center points of both of those circles. And now I can place this measurement here. And this measurement was our hole spacing. At least that's what I called mine. You're maybe drawing on a weird plane. You're maybe drawing on not the plane that you think you're drawing on. Well, maybe you are, maybe you are. So if you grab your line tool, and then you hover over the midpoint. Here. So here's why I hate 3D sketching. I would turn that off. Yeah, 3D sketching is screwing you up there. There we go. Because if you have that 3D sketching turned on, it's going to do all sorts of weird shit.
If you don't know that it's turned on.
Right. Now, the only other thing we want to do here in this sketch is I'd like to define a distance from the bottom down here. So I'm going to place that dimension, and now I'm going to add one more dimension that's just between my bottom, the center point of my bottom circle, and the bottom of my little mount holder thing there. This is going to be 3/4 of an inch divided by 2. So 3/8. 3/8 or 3/4 of an inch divided by 2. I love that you can just do math in right in the measurement. So it's really convenient. Because that's what computers are for, doing the work for us, right? Are you good? Yeah, I got a confused face.
You have hole spacing plus 1.5 inches overall. If you went hole spacing and used a 3/4 inch gap at the bottom, then you would also have a 3/4 inch gap at the top.
Right.
For a reason you are asymmetrical.
Yeah, so here, if you look at our part, the spring needs to attach kind of high on this mechanism here. So
Okay.
the spring needs
So
to
it's
attach kind of
deliberately
way up
one
there.
lower. Okay.
Yeah, so it is definitely an asymmetrical mount, but that's just because our spring needs to attach pretty high on this mount. Otherwise, it doesn't work as well. I don't know from experience from trying that at all. This is definitely the first one of these that I've printed. Yeah, you believe me, right? All right. So now I'm gonna go ahead and say finish sketch. And you know, before when I was like telling you about that measurement that I was sure was gonna be wrong, you know, this spacing here, that actually looks pretty good. So the idea was to have this hole pretty close to the middle of this thing. And that's where we're at right now. So we're good to go. And by good to go, I mean good to name our sketch. So this is our mount sketch, mount holes. So mounting holes. You know what? Let's go ahead and extrude those mounting holes right away. Might as well, right? So I'm gonna grab the extrude tool from my create window, create menu, and I'm just gonna extrude those backwards, cutting them out. So now I've got some nice holes. Nice holes, bruh. As long as they go through all the way, as long as they're more than a quarter of an inch, then you'll be in good shape. You know, and as a fine question, let's use this opportunity to talk about an option here. You know how I like to be parametric. What is probably the best method for us in this particular case is, instead of specifying a distance, that we choose the extent type called all. So normally the extent type is set to distance. If we instead choose the extent type called all right here will be whatever that thickness is. So if we go back in time and say, hey, that's a quarter of an inch is too small, that needs to be a half of an inch, all is still all. So all now is going a half of an inch instead of only going a quarter of an inch. Does that make sense? So, you know, if I'd have typed in, if I'd have left it as a quarter of an inch, and then I had to go back in time and change this to a half of an inch, then I would have had to find that wherever I made those holes, and then I'd have had to extend those a little bit. But because I decided to go with that extent type of all, that's one less thing I have to change from changing one measurement. Cool? Did you catch that, Mike? So the extent type that I chose here was all, and again, I think this is a good use of that. Now let me do it then.
You don't have to play around with positive or negative.
You still got dashed lines there. So you're still making construction lines. So if you right click on your sketch there, and see it say edit sketch. You click on that line. There you go, and then you hit the X key, or you can hit the construction line. There you go. Now it's a nice solid line. And then you can do the other one too, because there's one at the bottom there. There we go, and then you can say finish sketch, and now you'll be able to extrude out those bits. Here's what I think is happening to you. So if I am editing a sketch and I choose to make a rectangle, and then after I make that rectangle, now I say, oh, one of these lines I want to make into a construction line. I can just hit that button and turn it into a construction line, right? But if I say, click on the construction icon first, now every line I make will be a construction line until I come back and turn that construction icon off. So it works as a toggle button and also a push button, if that makes sense. So you can select a thing and then change it, or you can turn it on before you start drawing, and then everything will be a construction line. And then you'll have to go back and say, oh, nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Or you'll have to highlight a whole bunch of them and say, nope, not those. So, cool. Does that make sense? Construction line pro tips? No, I'm Carl. Yes, and then you want to go backwards. Yes. And instead of join, you want to say cut. separate extrusions. You can always delete those extrusions in your timeline too and just do them again. Alright. Cool. So now that we've got our mounting holes there, let's go ahead and make the rest of our bit here. So I'm going to come back to this profile sketch I made, and I'm going to, why won't it let me edit you? Oh, there we go. So then say edit sketch. And now let's kind of draw in the arms and our cup holder here. So our two little arms are going to extend out from two little circles. And those circles are going to be centered on our small rectangle here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a center line dividing this small rectangle in half. I'm going to turn that also into a construction line by hitting the X key there. And then I'm going to draw a couple of circles. So I'm going to draw a circle here. This is going to be 3 millimeters, mostly because I've got a crap ton of 3 millimeter hardware, because I bought it in bulk, because metric hardware is better. Sorry, Freedom Units, metric hardware is better. I'm going to go ahead and place 2 of these right away, because they're both going to be the same size. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dimension the center of these circles from this line down, from the top and bottom line respectively. Is that the best way to do it? Actually, what I'd really like to know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the distance is. I'm just talking to myself like a perfectly sane person. It's not talking to yourself that's a problem. It's when you answer your own questions, which I also do. So I'm going to go with 375. Nope, I'm going to go with 325. 0.325, which is like 5/16 or something like that. And I'm going to do that again on the top here. I'm just going to set our sketch dimension. This is really the sketch dimension class. And it hadn't occurred to me that we're just going to use this sketch dimension tool a bunch. How you doing? Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're moving in the right direction. How you doing? Okay, cool. Cool.
Trying to get there as slow as possible today, apparently.
That's fine. That's fine. We're all getting there. That's the important part. All right. So I'm going to put these measurements in a place where they're legible for future me to be able to read. And now I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple of lines. So I'm going to draw a line up and at an angle. And you know what? Just in the interest of having a fully constrained sketch, I believe I made these 2 inches, or maybe they're only 1.5 inches. These are only 1.5 inches. Why you make so many of them on the sketch?
No, it's like not
Yeah, so you know what? If you move your mouse, so try that again. Grab your sketch dimension tool again.
Okay.
And then pick your center point and your circle and your line, or do your 2 lines. And then it depends on where your mouse is. So there you go. So if you kind of, now it kind of puts the measurement in a weird spot.
Yeah.
So, you know, it kind of forces you to choose how that dimension goes in here. I'm just going to share that with everybody here. So what we were having is when we said, hey, dimension this circle from this point, we don't want that angle. We want the angle that's up here, right? And it just takes moving your mouse to the right spot in order to let it know what angle you're indeed trying to dimension there, or what dimension you're trying to achieve. So, cool. So now we're drawing lines from the center of each one of our points. We're drawing them up 1.5 inches. And I'm drawing them at a 45-degree angle, or in this case, a 135-degree angle, I believe, is what that actually boils down to. This angle is kind of arbitrary because it moves. So it just needs to be in there somewhere, you know, that angle changes. But having that angle specified makes it easy for us to repeat it when we draw the bottom line. Now, this might be one of the reasons why some people who do lots of Fusion 360 stuff don't like to have things on, like to have multiple sketches, because your measurements can end up living on top of each other here. So if you can define this chaos, then, you know, you're good. But if you can't, then, you know, breaking this up might be a smart thing to do. I've got a couple more circles to make, so we're going to make circles at the end of the lines that we just made that are 3 millimeters. So 2 more 3 millimeter lines, 3 millimeter circles, sorry, at the ends of our lines. These lines that I made to give a dimension, those are actually just reference lines. They're kind of a center line for our arm. So I'm going to change those both to construction lines. And then I'm going to finish up our arms here, and then I'm going to come take a look at everybody's sketches here. So we're going to draw at the center points of each one of our 4 circles. We're going to draw 1/2 inch circles. So we're going to have 4 1/2 inch circles. Each one of those 4 1/2 inch circles is going to be concentric on one of the other 3 millimeter circles. And then I just need to connect the circles together with lines that are tangent to the circle. So there's a couple ways to make a tangent circle. So first I'll show you kind of the pro method here. Let me zoom in. If you hold the shift key down before you put your first point down, and you place your first point, it will want to stay tangent to that circle. So you can see I'm holding the shift key, and as I move my mouse, my line is staying tangent to that circle. And now I'm continuing to hold my shift key, and then I'll place that second point, and you can see it added two tangent constraints right off the bat for me. The other way is you can draw a line, and you can probably get one of those tangent constraints to pop up for you. You can see it's kind of popping up. But if you don't have that tangent constraint pop up, we can add that constraint after the fact. So here you can see that's a blue line. It's not fully constrained. So up here I can say, hey, from my constraints menu, I can make sure that that line and that circle are tangent, and I can make sure that that line and that circle are tangent. That is the other way to do it, but again, I like holding the shift key down. It's kind of a keyboard shortcut, I guess you could say, and that way you can get both of those tangents right off the bat. Cool. Cool. Getting there. Very nice. You know, this one too looks like that one. Almost a tangent, but it's just a slight miss. Otherwise, it would have been a black line. So you can, from your constraints menu, and try adding the tangent after the pack line.
All right.
So from the constraints menu, you can grab that tangent option. There you go.
Okay.
Nice. Very nice. Bit of premium. Very good. Sweet lines.
Measurements was a little bit something.
Yeah, somehow.
Is that like a third another line in there?
It must be.
It should be a
My
little bit.
stupid mouse controller.
It's gotta be higher, but then I clicked correctly.
Maybe you just delete that.
Yeah.
I think I did it right.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, nice. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So believe it or not, we're getting close here. We're almost done. The last thing that we need to do here is we need to add our cup holder. And we're going to put our cup holder on this sketch with everything else. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and extrude out our arms first. So I'm going to go ahead and say finish sketch. And I'm going to choose the extrude tool. And I'm going to specify all of the bits that make up our arms. And keep in mind, you might have to zoom in here because there might be small bits that are divided by other parts of your sketch. And I'm going to extrude this out. You can see my arrow is pointing away from me, and I actually want to extrude these toward me. So I'm going to extrude these a negative quarter of an inch. We've got a bunch of quarter-inch plexiglass over in the laser area that make great use of this. A bunch of little scraps. We do not want to join these things together. We do indeed want to make them new bodies. All right, and then I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to do that again. Here's another little pro tip. Now, I could go through and I could, I want to extrude out these same items again. But I'm going to have to go through and click on a whole bunch of different things. And now the sketch is in between my items. So it's hard. I have to turn off some bodies in order to click on the sketches because I can't see them because they're hidden in between. So what I can do here is if I turn off my sketch, if I click on create and then come down to extrude again, instead of extruding parts of my sketch, I can extrude out the faces that I've already extruded here. So this makes it so I don't have to click on individual bits of my sketch here. And I'm going to do this the same way from here as I would, but it just saves us some clicking there. Instead of starting from the profile plane, instead of starting our extrusion from the profile plane, we're going to start from an object. And that object that I'm going to start from is going to be that face right there. And then I'm going to come out and extrude out the same quarter of an inch that we did the first time. Again, making new bodies. And I'm going to say OK. And now I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the thing we just did. Take a look at how your arms are coming along. No worries, no worries. Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, and I had like little bits in there that you gotta kind of zoom in and catch because they're just little slivers of the sketch that are kind of being separated there. Yeah, you got a mouse that's gonna beat a baby butt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I put the center diameter circle and then I circled the, I got to do it with the broken one. I was trying to
Oh,
match up
no.
really quickly.
A
So
little 3 millimeter circle, is that what we're missing?
the center, the circle
Yeah.
inside that circle
Yeah, it's a little 3 millimeter circle, yeah.
was
Yeah, so I don't know what sketch you're currently on. You could say finish sketch. And now you can right click on your sketch one, I believe is with the sketch. Yeah, there you go. And you can say edit sketch. There you go.
No,
yes, it's
the
just
thing I
it's
missed
really
as I
messy.
was trying to
Mhm.
fix my extrude. Now you select this for the next.
So either one. So you can click on create and then come down to extrude.
How big were those?
They are 3 millimeters. And then you can pick either that face or the other face. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay.
So both of them are the same. So I pick the other one, or turn off your sketch, your profile.
Okay.
There you go. So now you can pick on that face and that face. And then instead of starting at the profile plane,
That's I did.
you're going to start from an object.
Okay, gotcha.
And that object, there you go.
Okay, so
Did you catch that, Mike? Yeah, cool. Right on.
I think that's everything, right?
Yeah.
And then I gotta do this.
Yeah, then you can extrude out your arms. Is it okay if we run 10 minutes over? Is that fine for you guys? Cool. Yeah, don't forget all your little bits in there. Yeah. There you go. Well, it looks like that's not quite connected. The
My
sketch
sketch is
isn't
wrong.
quite connected.
Something's not right on the sketch.
Yeah, your line's
But
not
I mean,
quite.
other than that, I had all the correct stuff selected, but my sketch is wrong. Right here.
Yeah. So you can see that line is not connected to your circle, it's connected to a line. So yeah, that's your sketch one there, right? So you can right click on that and say edit. There we go.
That was, how do I fix that?
Just a slight misclick, it looks like.
I know, but
So there's probably a little zoom in. So yeah, you probably just can click and drag on that. And then just drag it to your circle. There you go.
alright.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's still wrong.
Well, I mean, it's just not tangent, so we just have to drag this line.
It's right now, isn't it?
Maybe we can add a tangent straight. Just pop into place. Yeah, I don't know. We'll let you move your line. So I will say this is an advantage of having a fully constrained sketch, which you don't have right now, right? So having dimensions is a good thing. But you can extrude that out. If the shape will be slightly off, it'll be totally fine. Yeah, it will 100% function. It will be yours. It has the mark of a maker on it. It is wabi sabi in only the most beautiful ways, in only the ways that you could do, right? All right, cool. So the last thing that we want to do here is to actually add our cup holder to our sketch here. So our profile, I'm going to come back and edit that sketch one last time. And I'm going to add in my cup holder bit here. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to draw another rectangle. Actually, this doesn't need to be a rectangle. This can be just kind of a Nice. So I'm going to add another 3-point rectangle to our object here. And that 3-point rectangle just needs to encompass the entirety of our 1/2-inch circles. So as long as we're encompassing our 1/2-inch circles there, so I'm going to make this 0.75. Nope, that's too much. I'm going to make it 5/8. Just needs to be a little bit bigger. So it's 5/8. And then the other measurement is 1.5 inches, which makes sense. Now our rectangle is not constrained at all. Carl, what have you done? That is not a constrained sketch. Because I can move it all around. But we can constrain it after the fact. It's kind of nice. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a line right down the middle of the sketch. I'm going to make that. Oh, no, we don't like lines. You don't want to make that line?
No, I'm knowing my own stuff like
I often get too ambitious for these advanced classes. Sorry. Try to draw too much here.
I'm still playing catch up from my earlier project.
These measurements ended up way on top of each other here, didn't they? Didn't clean that up at all. Maybe I'll take time to do that now while you're catching up there. So once we have our center line drawn, I can use my coincident constraint to make that line pop into place. And also pop to the correct angle. So if I hit the coincident option, I can choose the line and the center point, and then I can choose again the line and that other center point. And now I'm kind of locked in position right to left. I just need to lock it in position. Yeah, I did another 3-point rectangle. Yeah, another, because it's kind of an angled rectangle again. I just want to add one more dimension here, just to kind of lock this into place. And that one more dimension is just going to be a dimension between the end point of my line and the center point of one of my circles. And it's going to be 5/8 divided by 2, which I don't know off the top of my head.
5/16.
Oh, 5/16. There you go. Yeah, that looks right. Right, that's close enough to right. All right. And then, am I going too fast? Should I slow down? I'm hearing you're going too fast. That's totally cool. I'm going too fast. I'm gonna pause. There's a lot going on in this sketch. Is there too much going on in the sketch? Are y'all giving me the middle finger like behind your computer screens? Yeah? I don't see any of your hands, so I'm just assuming.
The length or the height of the cup holder?
It is 1.5 inches.
Oh,
So it's 1.5 by 5/8. Maybe this is a reason to break up our sketches. So we don't have. You mean, Mike? You mean you can't tell what the measurement is? It was all the measurements are hiding on the sketch. So yeah, sorry.
And where is your 5/16?
The 5/16 was my spacing between this top circle and then this line here. Just to kind of get it like roughly centered-ish. What I probably could have done is drawn another line and put a midpoint point on it, and then make the midpoint of that line coincident with the midpoint on that dashed line, but it just seemed like a whole lot more lines and points. And I think we're kind of at we're reaching point line limit here. We're reaching breaking point. Yes.
It's not letting me add this. I don't know why. It's like I'm to the first, but it won't let me add the other dimensions. Like I put tab to add the other dimensions.
Yeah. That tool doesn't work with tab. So you have to click and place that measurement. So you have to just click somewhere where it's there you go, and now you can move your mouse out. There you go. And now you can type in your other measurement there. Yeah. Right. All right. So now, I don't know why that is not blue, or why this is not fully constrained, but because I'm locked in position here. Am I not? So weird. But anyway, I'm gonna try to let that slide in my brain that our sketch is not fully constrained. And I'm just gonna draw a couple of more lines here. So that rectangle that we made is kind of our mounting plate bit here. Now we need to make this part that we're gonna end up revolving. So what that profile is gonna look like is just another 3-point rectangle. And our 3-point rectangle is gonna go from that top point to that bottom point, and it's gonna be 1/8 of an inch. Cool. And then, believe it or not, the final line that we're gonna draw it off to the side here. This is gonna be the center line that we're gonna need for revolving our cup shape around. And I am going to add another sketch dimension to this line. And then I'm going to come and look at all your middle fingers pointed behind your screens very closely. And then try to fix the problem that you're giving me the middle finger for. So I'm going to choose the sketch dimension option. I'm going to choose that line there. And then I'm going to choose this bottom point. And this dimension is going to be our cup size divided by 2. Because it was a diameter. And now I've got a radius going on. And then I'm going to kind of take a peek and see where we're at. Yeah, you're not bad. You're doing all right. Yeah.
Like yours.
Yeah. And so here we can just kind of, because you're not fully constrained, we can just kind of do this.
Yeah, but then
Right? That is true. But it's like yours.
Isn't that supposed to be cup size over 2, Carl?
Yes, cup size divided by 2.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, that's close enough. And rectangle and a 3-point rectangle. There we go. And then the penultimate ultimate thing that we need to do here is just to dimension that from that. And that's going to be. Oh. Because it wasn't constrained. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how you did that where it was like,
Yeah, so what I did was I drew a line right down the middle. And then I hit the escape key for me. And then I made that one a construction line. And then I said that line is going to be this. And that circle.
it's a coincidence. Do you know how much I struggled with that? With the stuff I was designing because I couldn't remember the right freaking constraint to use. And the constraint one was the one that was giving me the problems.
Between that and that. Why does it go way down there? There we go. Oh.
See, I fucked it up so bad even Carl can't fix it. No, this is
Just missed a little bit on those dimensions, and that's why that's moving. So now, if I say equals value, there we go. There we go, and then
look at that. You did
that moves in good ways. And now we can just dimension from you. And this was our, did you call it book size? Yeah,
I just used the same. I decided not to be different.
there we go.
This time.
Nice. Cool.
Last time I tried to be different, I fell so far behind that I fucked
Hey,
every
that's-
single
that's
thing up
awesome.
the entire class. So I decided not to do things different.
I mean, I support I support differences of all kinds. You should be different. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to say, okay, finish sketch. And I'm going to turn on that sketch profile. And now I just have to do a couple of things. So I'm going to click on use the extrude tool to extrude out all the little parts of my rectangle there. Right, so I've got all those little parts highlighted to extrude out. I'm going to extrude them out 1/4 of an inch. 0.25. I'm making a new body. I'm going to say hokey dokey. And then, you know what I'm going to do next is, just to save myself a step, I don't know, maybe this isn't saving a step. I'm going to turn off, here's a pro tip. Let's say you want to turn off a whole bunch of different bodies. I want to turn off every body except for this last body we made. So I could click on the little eyeball icon for each one of those. Or if you right click on the body that you want, the only body that you want to see, you can right click on it and you can say isolate. This is kind of cool. So it'll turn off everything that is not that thing. It works for sketches, it works for components, it works for a lot of different stuff. So right click and you can say isolate. And now I just have to turn on my mounting hole or my sketches profile again, my profile sketch. And Now I can say create, and I can say revolve, and I can revolve out that axis around this axis here. And I've kind of been thinking about this. I think the next version of this cup holder that I try, I'm gonna not make it a fully closed circle. So to give it a little bit of spring, a little bit of compliance for whatever cup you put in there. So instead of revolving this 360 degrees, I'm gonna do 160.
Did you put a taper on there too?
I did not.
You can block that part or make it the bottom scroll slide smaller and it'll probably automatically.
Yeah, maybe. But so it is. Yeah, well, yeah, so there is a taper for the cup because our axis is at an angle to our actual piece. But so if I choose to revolve this around symmetrically at a partial angle of 160 degrees and I choose to join, then I end up with a shape like that, which is our goal. And now when we're done here, I can just say, I can right click on the same body that I chose to isolate everything with. This is a key. You got to remember which body you chose to isolate everything with. And then you can choose unisolate and it'll just turn things back to the on position. So there we go. That is our cup holder. I'm going to come and take a look at all of your cups and see how you did. Again, I chose to do this a little bit different, you know, instead of having a closed cup, I chose to make mine kind of an open. You know, maybe that'll give a little bit more wiggle room for different coffee cup sizes. But still hold on to them decently. In the next advanced class, we'll see who's here next week. Depending if it's just you guys again next week, we'll add some joints if you guys want to. And I'll show you how to add the spring. I found a YouTube video of somebody who made a spring function in Fusion 360, which we are definitely not going to do in this class because it just looks like a lot of work. So, and totally unnecessary.
Did you do it?
No, definitely not. It's a lot of work. All right, cool. We will see you